We are in the middle of meeting number 147, House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates. Before we go to Mrs. Vignola, I see your hand is up, and yes, Mrs. Cusi. Couple of things. I have to get approval for our budget for the Indigenous Procurement Study. I see hands up all around. Approved. Thank you very much. The other thing, there's been the PBO has put out his fall or his economic update. Is there an interest in having him come join us for 1 hour to discuss that?
Yeah, I think so.
Sometime down the road.
Sometime down the road.
Yeah, we're pretty full. I'm thinking November. Yes. Okay. I will have a chat with them.
For the holidays. That's
Yeah. Nothing 100% guaranteed over Remembrance Day week. You have my absolute word on that. Mrs. Vignola, please. And before we start with you, I want to thank you for your patience with this.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Chair, one moment, please. Given that the motion that I had introduced regarding the Governor General was judged out of scope, I would like to introduce another motion. So this is the motion. We know that the media on September 25th, 2024, indicated that in spite of $120,000 of expenses to teach her French, the Governor General was not able to converse in French during a visit in Quebec. So my motion is as such that the committee report to the chamber to remind the Prime Minister and the next Prime Minister that they must choose a Governor General who speaks the 2 official languages of Canada. So it is not an attack on the person that the Governor General is, speaking other languages, that the 2 official languages.
Did you have a copy sent to the clerk?
Devrait avoir la copie.
Do you mind resending?
Do we have the copy? It was sent this morning.
You can just double check and resend it, and we'll send it out to everyone. Go ahead, please.
Donc, de parler d'autres langues que le français et l'anglais sont certainement des atouts, mais pas des atouts qui remplacent.
These are, of course, assets to speak languages other than French and English, but they do not replace official languages. This is an important point to be borne in mind in this overall debate. I do recognize that the current Governor General is a member of the First Nations, and of course this helps with the overall reconciliation process to be able to speak an Indigenous language is, of course, an asset, but nevertheless, it should not replace the 2 official languages. If we want to have reconciliation, we have to have reconciliation with everyone. We don't want to then start off a battle with someone else. If it had been the other way round, if it had been someone who only spoke French and another language of this world, which could be very useful in Canada, or even if that person had spoken an Indigenous language in French, very quickly that would have been pointed out. So it's not about this person in particular. It's a question of the respect for all of the communities that exist, and also respect for the 2 official languages in particular. And so I'm asking us to drop this report and report back to the House of Commons, because it's a respectful and polite reminder that people should not be pushed aside. And it's a reminder not just for the current Prime Minister, but also for following Prime Ministers to come. An asset does not replace an obligation. So it's important for me to underline that, because in the current circumstances and in full respect for the person in question. Now, Marc-Olivier, do you need me to actually repeat this motion?
La motion finale.
The final motion?
I have it in French. Okay, Daniel?
Vous devriez avoir reçu.
So you should have received it because I did draft it in the 2 official languages this morning, so I don't understand why you perhaps haven't received it. I'll give you the updated version immediately. It'd be great if the interpreters could receive that also. Thank you.
Okay.
What was read, this is what you read into the record right now, right?
Oui.
Right.
Okay.
We'll just read it in English, and then we've got Mr. Berthold on a list, and anyone else just put up your hands, please. Mrs. Vignola, this is what you had? Just go ahead.
Oui, c'est exactement.
Yes, that's it, exactly the motion that I sent. And that's why I read out a few moments ago. So, in French, that the committee should report back to the House to recall the current Prime Minister and subsequent Prime Ministers to choose a Governor-General who speaks both official languages of Canada. The interpreter does not have the exact motion in front of her.
So just read it in English, be on the safe side.
You want me to read it
Yep,
in
please,
English?
please.
Well, the English version that was just distributed says something like that the committee reports to the House a reminder to the actual Prime Minister and every subsequent ones to choose a Governor General who speaks both official languages. Thank you, Chair.
Correct, Mrs. Vignola? Okay, perfect. Thanks, everyone, for their patience. Mr. Berthold, sir, welcome back to Ogo.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Macaulay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Macaulay. Why are we here? Well, we're here because we've got our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, who has not respected Francophone citizens, and the Prime Minister has decided to ignore the Official Languages Act and has chosen... I'll just remove my cell phone. So we're here because the Prime Minister has put a person in a very awkward situation, a person who is a very honourable person and very competent, but unfortunately she does not master the 2 official languages. We're here because the Prime Minister has chosen to do politics with the appointment of this person rather than respecting the Official Languages Act. This is unacceptable for Francophones throughout the country and for all Quebecers who judge that 71% of them in a survey said that a unilingual English-speaking Governor-General for Canada was unacceptable. So for all of these reasons, we have also tried to get a motion adopted in the Official Languages Committee to speak out about the lack of transparency in the appointment process, which has led to Governor-General being appointed who does not speak French. and they were appointed by the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So I think we need to report back to the House on our dissatisfaction to show respect to all Francophone Canadians, and also because we're referring to an appointment process which has meant that the Governor-General does not speak both official languages of the country. So I think it's legitimate and normal for Ogo to speak out against that situation and report back on that to the House Chair. So we very much support the motion presented by my colleague.
Mr. Kuzmierczuk?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to start off by just emphasizing and highlighting and underscoring the fact that my colleague, Madame Vignola, has been steadfast at this committee, really from the moment that she set foot on this committee as a champion of the French language and Francophonie rights. And so I wanted to acknowledge her tremendous championing. Having said that, I think it's important to also note that even as this motion is phrased here, this motion, this work of understanding this issue belongs in the Standing Committee on Official Languages. And I think it's important. I know Ogo is the mighty Ogo, and we tend to want to study a wide variety and swath of issues. But I think we need to be very strategic about making sure that what we study is in the mandate of this committee. And I believe that this issue, which is so vital and so important, belongs in the Standing Committee of Official Languages. And I think it's important to respect the work of the Standing Committee on Official Languages and allow that committee to do its work and the work that it was established to look at. And so again, that has been my concern with this motion from the very beginning, that it does belong to the Standing Committee on Official Languages. But again, I just wanted to emphasize and acknowledge and respect the tremendous work and championing of Madame Vignola on this very important critical issue.
Mrs. Vignola, then Mr. Berthold.
Merci, merci.
Thank you very much. With all due respect to my colleague, this motion only requests that we report back to the House. There's no study, there's no time allocation that will be spent on this subject over and above our discussions just now. And when we're talking about the Governor-General, yes, that does fall under the Ogo mandate. It's part of our mandate. We've already discussed this. I'm sure my colleague will recall that we had discussions on this some months ago for another study where we received the members from protocol on this when we were looking at the travel expenses of the Governor-General and her team to the Middle East. And this mandate is part of the Ogo mandate and the travel expenses. Now, here we do not officially refer to the expenses paid for the French language classes. I don't have any problem with people, whether it's Governor-General or other MPs, taking French language classes. In fact, I would very much encourage them to do so because the language of Molière is indeed a magnificent language. And here, of course, we've got our American accent touch, and it's even more extraordinary because it's a travel through time and space to reach the Americas. And these accents that we find here in French are as magnificent as the St. Lawrence River. And these accents dance with the waves across the river. So I'd encourage you to take French language classes, but I am disappointed to see that in spite of all of that, there has been no improvement. I have not included the costs of these language classes in my motion to not really hammer too much on this point, and I don't want it to be some sort of attempt to humiliate the Governor General, if that's the right word. I don't want to put across the idea that I would wish to humiliate the Governor General and the efforts that she's undertaken. We can learn French, but sometimes it's very difficult to speak French. I know people who understand French but are still very shy to speak French. They're afraid of their accent, but in fact that adds extra colour. That is why I have not included, or in fact I've withdrawn the point about the costs from my motion. And that is also why I have not called for a study to be undertaken, because I believe that we can simply report that there is an issue here, and we would very much appreciate if the current Prime Minister and subsequent Prime Ministers could choose people who are able to express themselves in both official languages, and with full respect for whoever is actually appointed in the future. I really don't see why we would have to debate this. The points that led to litigation between colleagues around the table have been fully withdrawn. We are simply stating the situation here. The Governor General and her expenses very much fall within the mandate of OGO. That has been proven in the past. That is why I am putting forward this request with no further preamble.
Ce sera très...
I'll be very brief, Chair. I dare to hope that my Liberal colleagues will stand with Quebecers who are very much insulted by the current situation and take a stand for Francophone Canadians who see this as an affront. OGO is responsible for analysing the expenses and the nomination process around the Governor General, and report to the House that we're dissatisfied with this nomination process that led to the nomination of a unilingual Governor General, rather a Governor General who does not speak French, which is one of the two official languages of country. I think that's fully legitimate, and we have to have this debate in the House to avoid this type of situation arising in the future. We cannot always defend the bad decisions taken by the current Prime Minister, as you are continually doing.
Mayor Chuck, and then Mr. Bachrach.
Yeah, I would just simply state that whereas I agree that this committee studies issues of expenses, travel, supply, this clearly is an issue that does belong in the Standing Committee of Official Languages. This is a debate and a discussion on official languages. And for that very reason, I would move to adjourn debate.
Okay. Take a vote. Mr. Clark.
Mr. Ali? Vote in favor or in disfavor?
Favor.
Mr. Baines?
Between red and green, and I was saying
Mr. Johari?
in favor.
Mr. Kosmierczak?
In favor.
Mr. Souza?
Yes.
Ms. Bloch?
No.
Ms. Roberts?
No.
Ms. Kuzi?
Opposed.
Madame Vignala?
Contre.
Mr. Bachrach?
In favor. Again.
Yeas pour 6, and nays contre 4.
Debate on this is adjourned. And Mr. Bachrach, you blocked yourself from speaking on this with your vote. You blocked yourself from speaking on this with your vote.
Your benefit.
I have Mrs. Kusi. We do have a bit of extra resources. Mrs. Kusi, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Well, today, Mr. Chair, we had more bad news for Justin Trudeau, but great news for Canadian taxpayers. The Auditor General of Canada, Ms. Karen Hogan, has made the decision to adhere to the September 17th vote of the House of Commons, where it was unanimously adopted to concur with the 13th report of the Standing Committee of Government Operations, this very committee, to complete an entire performance audit on a priority basis of all payments to GC Strategies. Mr. Chair, it's fantastic that someone listens to the adopted motions of the House of Commons. So this is very good news today, given all of the work that we have done here at the Government Operations Committee to unearth and continue to dive into the Arrive scandal. That's the good news, Mr. Chair. The bad news, Mr. Chair, is that we have received another communication from the President of Canada Border Services, Erin O'Gorman, where she states that the committee has requested that the clerk contact Canada Border Services Agency to ask whether there are intact backup copies of Min Doan, yes, Min Doan, that name again, from when he was an employee of the agency, that as a part of the study of the ArriveCAN application, the committee ordered the production of all text messages between Cameron McDonald and Min Doan from 2018 to present. Now, Canadians will be shocked with the response that we received, Mr. Chair, as I'm sure all committee members were when they read this communication. With respect to backup copies of Min Doan's emails, Mr. Doan's email account was deleted following his departure from CBSA in accordance with Treasury Board Secretariat's directive on service and digital, which outlines how Government of Canada organizations manage service delivery, information and data information and technology and cybersecurity. With respect to the text messages between Min Doan and Cameron McDonald, the CBSA does not have access to the requested text messages. I draw your attention to a recent decision by the Information Commissioner in which he references the TBS Information Management Protocol instant messaging using a mobile device, which states, instant messages that do not have business value are deemed to be transitory and should be deleted as soon as possible. Now, that's very interesting, Mr. Chair, because Min Doan, in his own Arrive Scam testimony, stated, I needed to change my laptop because the battery on my current one was failing. When transferring files from my old computer to my new one, files were corrupted and the emails were lost. I personally reported this to my team to attempt a recovery of the emails. I believe CBSA still has these laptops and files in its possession. Apparently not. Everyone knows emails do not reside solely on a particular computer or laptop. They are delivered through servers where they are usually backed up. In the case of CBSA, the servers in question are under control of another department, Shared Services Canada. More importantly, all recipient senders and people on CC would still have copies of these emails from me and could have produced them as required. Neither I nor anyone else can delete other individuals' copies of emails. The loss of emails from my laptop would not result in them no longer existing anywhere else, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this is problematic for two reasons. The first reason is, are Canadians to believe that you can conduct shady business, action which may not be favorable to the government, favorable to the government in this case, favorable to the people of Canada, leave your job and just have none of your previous actions follow you, none of your poor actions follow you? That's what this letter from Madame O'Gorman says, Mr. Chair, that you can do wrongdoing in your position as a public servant in Canada, leave your position, and the trail behind you is deleted of what you did. This isn't right, Mr. Chair, and this has to change. The second thing, Mr. Chair, that's very concerning regarding this letter from Ms. O'Gorman and Min Doan's statement is that there is an inconsistency with what this letter says and the testimony that Min Doan gave. Min Doan, Mr. Chair, I will remind you and Canadians, was the CIO of Canada Border Services Agency. How would the CIO not know the practices of the management of technological information? Something is rotten in Denmark, Mr. Chair. It's very concerning. Now, you may want to go to the Information Commissioner. She has indicated that this is under the realm of the Treasury Board. The Integrity Commissioner certainly needs to be brought in again. Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, the Integrity Commissioner is also suffering as a result of being overwhelmed. She states in an October 7th article, she states, she is so overwhelmed with tips and wrongdoing from mismanagement to violations of departmental codes of conduct that her budget needs to double just to keep up. Just to keep up. She's already said it is causing a 2 to 3 year delay in analyzing new cases. She went on to say, if we don't get to the investigations, we can't get to the conclusions, and we can't make recommendations. She then goes on to say, and this part, Mr. Chair, is relevant to the letter from Madame O'Gorman, we may get to the point where evidence may no longer be available. People may move on. We may not be able to find them. Sounds very familiar, Mr. Chair. People's memories fade. So conveniently they fared, Mr. Chair. And so it will impact the outcome, as we are seeing here. But unfortunately, Mr. Chair, she is not the only one who is impacted, perhaps intentionally, by underfunding by this government. The procurement ombudsman has also indicated that he is severely underfunded, which I believe is having an impact on the review of contracting with this government to make recommendations to move on. In a December 13th, 2023 article, the procurement ombudsman indicated every year except last year, we've seen a steady increase in cases. So that's 2 years ago. Without the appropriate resources, we're not able to do our jobs as effectively as we should. Oh, interesting. He also states there is inflation. No kidding. We're just not able to do what is necessary moving forward with our existing budget. We've put forward a financial ask for new permanent funding that would allow us to be much proactive in our approach. Good idea. Being reactive isn't actually a solution to the problem. We want to provide solutions to problems before they escalate. We need an increase to our permanent funding to do that. The lack of transparency and trust means that bidders just aren't participating in the competitive process. The first thing is to provide more accurate and complete proactive information about contracts. And finally, it goes back to our initial concerns, which, thank goodness, the Auditor General has started to dig into today. The procurement ombudsman says, transparency matters because the taxpayers have a right to know. You, the Canadian, have a right to know how your tax dollars are being spent. And the goods, if the goods that are being acquired are actually being delivered, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Point of order.
overwhelming evidence.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're at 14-minute, I think 13-minute overtime, and I just wanted to ask how much more time do we have to end this, and when we can get to the motion.
Yeah, we do
yeah.
have resources for this, but please, if we could get to the motion.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Overwhelming evidence from the statement by the Auditor General today, from the letter as provided by Ms. O'Gorman, from the opposing testimony provided by Mindone, from the request by the the Integrity Commissioner, and finally the request by the procurement. But it is necessary that we bring forward and pass this motion, I believe, at this time. Given that the president of the Canada Border Services Agency, Erin O'Gorman, wrote the committee that the emails and text messages requested from Mindone were deleted after his departure, and that these emails were the subject of an Information Commissioner investigation, and that the procurement ombudsman is reviewing many of the contracts approved under Mindone's management at the Treasury Board Secretariat through his new study on bait and switch, that the committee call on the following witnesses. The President of the Treasury Board, Anita Anand, Treasury Board officials, President of the CBSA, Erin O'Gorman, Information Commissioner of Canada, Caroline Maynard, Public Sector Integrity Commissioner, Harriet Soloway, former Chief Technology Officer of Canada, Mindone, Chief Technology Officer of Canada, Luc Gagnon, former Assistant Deputy Minister, Health Canada, Cameron McDonald, and Procurement Ombudsman, Alexander Yeglik. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. The motion has been distributed. We'll start a speaking list, please. No? No, Mr. Kuzmirchuk.
Just 1 second, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We very much welcome the work of the Auditor General on this again, we welcome the work of the Auditor General on this important matter. Canadians want us to get to the bottom of this issue and make sure that we strengthen our procurement processes that are in place, the contracting processes that are in place. That is the work of this committee. It's the reason why we've had the Auditor General here. It's the reason why we've had the Procurement Ombudsman here. It's the reason why we've had countless witnesses here, officials from CBSA, from Procurement, from Treasury Board here to answer the questions that we expect answers for in this committee. I want to emphasize that in the letter that we received from the Auditor General, states that she will be looking at the 118 contracts that were provided to GC Strategies since 2011, a period that dates back to the previous Conservative government of Stephen Harper. And I welcome this expanded review by the Auditor General to look at, again, the GC Strategies and its and the people that are part of GC Strategies, and to look at again the procurement practices around it dating back to 2011, which is when the Conservative government of Stephen Harper was in power. This is a procurement issue. This is about accountability. It's about transparency, and this committee is 100% committed to getting to the bottom of this issue and finding answers for Canadians. And so I did want to put that on the record. We did just receive. This was quite a long, lengthy preamble by my colleague Ms. Kusi. There is a lot to digest here in this motion, which we are just seeing for the very first time. And so, Mr. Chair, I would ask for a brief suspension so that we may take a look at it and respond to that. Thank you.
5 minutes. All right, we'll suspend for 5. Just a reminder to everyone that the email from President O'Gorman that was discussed was sent out at 9 a.m. yesterday, but the clerk has just resent it as well. Mr. Smirchuk?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, we take this very seriously at committee. I just want to underscore again the fact that we had the procurement ombudsman, we had the auditor general look at this issue. The RCMP, of course, is open to investigating this issue. And again, this committee has had 25 meetings on this issue. We know that other committees have studied this, and so we are committed to studying this issue. It's absolutely vital. We know that the motion that was put forward is quite substantial. We received the letter from Ms. Gorman yesterday, and so I would actually move that we adjourn today to give us an opportunity to again read that letter and bring forward any changes to that motion that is
Are you
that we see
adjourning
fit. So adjourn the meeting.
the meeting or
Yes,
the motion?
adjourn the meeting. We'd like to come back to this motion at the next meeting, and so adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Ali? Yes. Mr. Baines?
Yes.
Mr. Miao?
Yes.
Mr. Kusmirchuk?
Yes.
Mr. Souza?
Yes.
Ms. Block?
No.
Ms. Roberts?
No.
Ms. Kuzi?
Opposed.
Madame Vignola?
No.
Mr. Backrack?
Yes.
Okay, yeas pour 6, and nays contre 4.
We are adjourned then, colleagues. Thanks everyone for the patience. And please, sorry, before we adjourn, take a quick look, please, at the outstanding recommendations. There are some that overlap with other parties. Please kind of reach out and we'll get them settled in advance. Thanks very much. We are adjourned. Thank you, sir.